Ever wondered how life is in Europe compared to India? Visiting a place and living in a place are two different things. At first, some of these may sound obvious, but it is not when you dig a bit deep into it. There are some shocking cultural differences that will make you rethink everything. And honestly, this is one of the best things about living in different places. Let's dive into part 2 of the cultural difference journey with me. From waste management to work culture, religion, social life, and even driving. There is deep-rooted culture that makes significant difference between India and Europe. If you haven't watched part 1, do not forget to check it out after this video. Hello everyone, I am Premia. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to help immigrants and expats to better integrate. Having a deep understanding of the cultural differences will take you a long way to better integrate in Western countries. Without wasting any time, let's start with one of the most obvious and one of my favorite in the list. Waste management system. Now, people usually think waste is waste. You throw it out, somebody picks it up, and that's it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, right? Wrong. In India and in Western countries, the way we handle waste is widely different. And the structured, almost surgical way it is done in Sweden, that was a real culture shock for me. When I moved to Sweden, I was amazed. Here we don't just throw away waste, but we sort it. Not in the way we do in India. There is food waste, you sort them into a brown bag. Then there is plastic, then there is paper. Mark me, newspaper and magazines are sorted differently than cardboard boxes. Glass and metal have different containers. There is garden waste. And if something doesn't fit in this category, that goes into the general waste. But that is very little if you do the sorting properly. I am not exaggerating, not at all. This is the way of life here. Kids here learn this in school. I have even heard Desi kids teaching their parents how to segregate the waste. Let's be honest, most of us didn't grow up with this system. Even public spaces have waste bins labeled for different type of waste. No guessing, no littering. And the best part? The bins are emptied regularly, like weekly basis. So nothing piles up and becomes a mess. I'm not saying Europe is perfect, absolutely not. There are places where things are not done properly. There are dirty cities in Europe also. But in general, there is majority of the cities where this is done in a structured way. And that consistency is what makes the difference. In India, it's a very different story. Now, I won't say India is as dirty as what it is shown in the internet. It is always exaggerated, but there is truth in it. Many areas in India do not have a proper waste management system. If you live in a flat apartment complex, the society takes care of it. But if you are living in an individual house or in rural areas, it is often left to the individual. But yes, we somehow manage, but it is not structured, not standardized, and it shows. There are not enough bins in the public spaces. And even if there is waste bin in the public spaces, they are often not emptied on time and is already full. Look at our beaches and roadsides, it is all over there. That is why when someone from Europe or Western country visits India, the difference hits them really hard because they don't see that often in their country. They notice the lack of adequate bins, they notice the overflowing trash. Honestly, that is why I felt this is more than just a functional problem, it is a cultural one. The Western approach wires people to think waste as their responsibility. That mindset starts in school. In India, for many of us, we were never taught to think in that way. I myself never littered in India. I was not trained to do it, but I picked it up from somewhere. But I know many people I grew up with actually teased me when I collected the candy wrappers and put it in my bag instead of throwing it out in the public. If you're traveling in a train, isn't it so common to see people throwing away that plastic cup out through the window? It is so easy for them to throw that away. They don't even think a second because that is the normal. We do not consider the waste that we make or our responsibility. We don't consider that. And that's where the issue lies. Well, we can all learn and we are learning. Today, I take pride in sorting my waste properly. And I genuinely enjoy doing it because it feels right. Years ago, when my dad was still around, I told him that I wanted to come back to India and want to do something about the waste management system in our place, like in our locality. start a project, educate the rural areas, build a system, then the reality hit. This kind of change needs structure. It needs policy. It needs government backing. Because let's be honest, people in India already have biggest day-to-day challenges. Waste segregation can't be the top priority unless the system makes it easy and accessible. So maybe one day we can see that change back home as well. Until then, this difference remains the biggest and one of the beautiful cultural shocks I have experienced. Let's move on to another favorite of mine, especially here in Sweden, work culture and work-life balance. Now, growing up and working in India, we are used to this belief that hard work means hustle, long hours, working weekend, always available. That's just how it is. That's what success demands, right? Or that is expected of an employee. But here is the shocker. In Europe in general, and especially in Sweden and Scandinavia, work-life balance is not a perk, it's a norm. And you know what? People here still succeed. They just do it without burning out. I remember something my manager said earlier this year, which left me speechless. Two of my colleagues were coming back from paternity leave. Sweden gives one of the most generous paternity leave in the world, by the way. And here is what my manager said about them coming back in our team meeting. Hey everyone, just a heads up. Two of our colleagues are coming back from paternity leave, but do not expect them to work 100%. Their kids are going to probably fall sick a lot. Let's support them, give them space, and keep their workload light. Imagine hearing that from a manager in India. That is when it really hit me. This isn't just about flexible working hours and paid leaves, which is our right, by the way. It's about a whole mindset shift. Here in Sweden, if your kid is sick, you stay home. No guilt, no panic, no explanation needed. In fact, there is something called VAB, which literally translates to taking care of kid. And guess what? You get paid by the government for staying home and parenting. There is more. You are also encouraged to take vacation days. If you haven't taken off 20 vacation days per year, your manager will contact you and ask you to take those days off. You can work early and leave early. You can start late and leave late. It's all about the outcomes, not the clocking hours. Managers here actually care about your well-being. They care about your personal goals, career development, and not just KPIs and deadlines. That young girl from E&Y, she would still be alive if she were in Sweden. But of course, this isn't everywhere in Europe. There are some countries and companies that are unlike Sweden. There are toxic work culture in Western countries too. But in general, especially in Scandinavia, the work-life balance is a normal thing. It's not a luxury. And that is a massive contrast to the culture that we all grew up in. In India, we often internalize the belief that being always available is considered as dedication, that putting work before everything makes you a valuable employee. And unfortunately, the hierarchical mindset reinforces this. You don't question, you don't prioritize yourself, you just deliver. But in Sweden, your manager doesn't manage your work, they care about your personal life as well. And that changes everything. And honestly, this is one of the most healing experience for me as an Indian immigrant. To realize that you can be trusted to do your work independently, that your personal life matters, and that you are not made to feel guilty for being human. And once you experience this, you can never unsee it. Just maybe you start to dream about a similar work culture in India also. A culture that values people just as much as productivity. I can talk on and on about this, but let's move on to the next point. Now let's talk about something that is very personal for me. Religion, or more accurately, the lack of it. Because growing up in India as an atheist, that wasn't an easy thing. In India, religion isn't a part of life, it is life. Every event, every celebration, every family conversation, every decision, somehow it all ties back to God. Temple, mosque, churches, everywhere. And there is always a festival around the corner, which I really enjoy. Religion is somehow woven into the culture itself. But when I moved to the Europe, first to the UK and then to Sweden, I experienced something I never really truly had in India. The freedom to be non-religious without judgment. Because here, especially in Sweden, being non religious isn't rebellious, it's just normal. I am an atheist and that is my belief system, but that was not okay in India. People couldn't understand how someone could not believe in God. There is an unspoken, actually spoken judgment around it. You are considered disrespectful, arrogant, and sometimes immoral. In here, it's almost the opposite. The country consistently ranks among the most atheist in the world. Religion here is private, personal, optional. You don't have to defend or explain your lack of belief. And the difference is incredible. I mean, the churches here are monuments, tourist sites. Some have been converted to pubs, entertainment sites, libraries, or hotels. And still, they celebrate Christmas. Not necessarily as a religious festival, but as a cultural one. Lights, food, family, no God needed. In India, being non religious can be isolating. You are constantly expected to perform rituals, go to temple, participate in festivals, and if you don't, you're considered disrespectful, cold, and rebellious. And this isn't to say that religion is bad and Europe is perfect. No. There are still religious communities here. There are people of faith, and many practice it with kindness and peace. But the key difference is you are allowed to choose. You are allowed to not believe. And your birth in the society is not tied to your belief system. In India, it has improved in the recent years, I must say that. However, religion is often equated with morality. If you're not religious, you're seen as lacking values. But in here, being kind, honest, and respectful isn't tied to going to temple or believing in God. It's just a basic expectation of being a human. As someone who grew up as an atheist in a highly religious society, living in Sweden has been peaceful for me. I don't need to have those conversations that I consider nonsense anymore. Because now I live in a society where being a believer or non-believer, it doesn't matter to anybody. Okay, point number 4. Let's talk about something we all love, social life and entertainment. Because if you're coming from India and moving to Europe, especially to countries like Sweden that is up in the north, get ready, you're going to feel the difference. In India, life is always on. There is no such thing as too late. You could walk out at midnight and still find a tea shop, street food, or a place to hang out with your friends and family. Celebration doesn't need a reason or a schedule. But in Europe, especially in Sweden, life sleeps early. Shops close early, the street go quiet, and socializing, that is planned, private, and respecting boundaries. It is not bad, but it is very different compared to how it is in India. Social life here is very structured. In India, you could barge into a friend's house unannounced and still be welcomed with open arms and some hot tea. Here, that would be considered rude. Even your closest friend expects a heads up. Socializing is scheduled. It's part of people's calendar. And that's not just with people, it is with places also. For example, in Sweden, shops closes at 8 p.m. on weekdays and 6 p.m. on weekends. Some supermarkets may be open till 10 p.m., but that's a stretch. Yes, 6 o'clock. After that, it's quiet. The streets are empty. People go back to their home. Compare that to India, where we start our life in the evening, maybe at 8 p.m. It's vibrant, spontaneous, and very much alive, especially for men or a group of friends, or people going out in groups. But in Sweden, once the day ends, it truly ends. People head home, they spend time with family and rest. And if you want to socialize, it will usually be a small gathering, maybe a fika or a dinner party that was planned weeks in advance. Even public entertainment is quieter. Mark my words, I'm comparing with India because everything is loud and more vibrant. Sure, there are clubs, bars, pubs. People do go out and enjoy, but what I'm saying is that is more structured and planned. The overall vibe is much more reserved and routine. And here is where I have come to appreciate both sides. In India, I love the spontaneity, the joy, the vibrancy, the feeling that at any hour life is happening. In Europe, I respect how people's personal time is valued. Shops closing early, That is because the person behind that counter also has a family and they should also spend time with their family. It's not about lack of fun, it's about balance. So, yes, social life in Europe feels very dimmed down and slow, but once you get used to it, you start to appreciate the beauty of that rhythm. You begin to enjoy the calm evenings, quiet streets, and personal space. Even though I miss the midnight tea breaks back home, I have grown to appreciate that people here don't need to sacrifice their time with family. Everybody get to go back home on time as well. Were you somebody who got annoyed that the shops are closing early in Europe? Not anymore, I guess. Alright, now let's talk about something that I never really noticed until I moved to Europe. Driving culture. Oh boy, this one is a big one. The biggest difference, I know you must have already heard about it. No honking. In India, honking is a lifestyle. It's not just a signal, it's almost like a reflex. We honk when someone is in front of us, when we are frustrated, and just because we can. We honk all the time. And honestly, we don't even notice it because we are so used to it. It's just part of driving. But when you get to a place like in Europe, you will start to notice how peaceful it is to drive in Europe. People here do not honk unless it is absolutely necessary. I was shocked at how quiet the roads were. And it's not just about the honking, there is more to it. In here, the driving culture is much more considerate. People actually let you go, let you drive. Imagine this. If someone is trying to overtake you, the expected thing to do here is to slow down and let that person overtake you safely. It's not a race, it's not a competition. Imagine how it would be in India. If someone is overtaking you in India, and especially if it's a girl, we are more likely to speed up and block their way, right? You have experienced that, right? It's almost like we don't want anybody to get ahead of us. It's such a different mindset. And here is something I found fascinating in Sweden. The whole driving test process is structured and thorough. Before you even get to take the driving test and the theory test, you actually need to take risk 1 and risk 2. And risk 1 is a 1-hour theory session. They will explain you what can all happen if you make dangerous decision while you drive. For example, driving under the influence of alcohol. They actually showed us a video of where a person was hit by a drunk driver and she was completely burnt. That really stuck with me. It's not just about knowing the rules, it's about understanding the consequences of your action on the road. You're bound to be responsible after that session, and it works. After risk 1, you take risk 2, where they do simulations to help you react in risky situations. They will let you drive alone on icy roads. This kind of sessions will help you understand how dangerous it can be driving on those conditions. So you don't take any dangerous decision on a real life scenario. Now, I have learned to drive both in India and in Europe. And let me tell you, after driving in UK and Sweden and many European countries, I am scared to drive in India. Every time I take a taxi from the airport after reaching India, it will always be a shocking experience for me. Haven't you felt it? I am sure you did. Let me know in the comments. The way we navigate in the roads, ignoring the lanes and signals and whatnot. I mean, I understand. We lack infrastructure. India has a lot of infrastructure challenges and not everyone has access to proper road signs. I'm not blaming anybody, but it is such a different experience. In Europe, in here, everything is structured. You know exactly where to drive and on what speed to drive. There are road markings everywhere and it is easy to follow. Believe me, it's exactly like driving on a Google map. I remember learning to drive here and telling myself, this isn't even an achievement. Anyone can drive here. But let's be clear, not all areas in Europe is like this. Countries like Italy and some parts in the south still have pretty aggressive driving culture. But nothing is comparable to the chaos in India. I could go on and on about this, but the point is, driving here in Europe is so peaceful. It is such a different experience. There is a sense of respect for each other on the road. It's not a competition. Well, there you go. These cultural differences really opened up my eyes, and I hope they have given you also something to think about. But this is just part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. And if you haven't watched part 1, check it out. I'll see you in my next video.